Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, and today on the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the lottery, reports out of Dallas that they are going to take Cooper Flagg and the impact that that might have on the trade market. And then I'm going to answer your questions. So whatever it is that you guys want to talk about as well. Reports out of Boston also are that our fears were confirmed for Jason Tatum, and he did suffer that ruptured Achilles tendon. They already performed the surgery, and there obviously is no timetable for a return on him. All the best to Tatum. And look, as somebody who watched my favorite player growing up suffer that injury and understand how shitty that was to watch, to Celtics fans, I know I give them a hard time, and we've been rooting specifically against their team this postseason. That sucks, man. Brutal, absolutely worst case scenario there for them. And prayers that he makes a full recovery. But anyway, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. I'm going to be all over the place, I would imagine, in the show, as these mailbags tend to be. So ask away. If you guys have any questions or topics that you guys want covered, hit me with them. The priority here is iTunes mailbag, some Twitter, super comments, and then live audience comments. And that'll take us through the show before I rush off and watch Andor. All right, let's dive on in. Quick reminder, please do hit us with questions, sorry. Quick reminder, please hit that subscribe button and that like button and that share button and all of the nice buttons. And then if you guys are listening to this in the morning via podcast, please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you guys are watching, and tell your friends about the show. Tell your friends that you love the show. Tell your enemies that you hate it. And without any further ado, let's dive on in. The first question I see here, I might have answered it already, but it was a week ago. I'm not positive if I got to it. I'll answer it quickly just in case. Viva Exceptionalism writes, Anthony, I've been listening to your podcast since before Locked on Lakers and Team Tank and won't stop now. Congrats on your success and know it will continue. Ooh, I think I did read this one. I appreciate the kind words. Saw Rob was on only 5 of 30 ballots for Executive of the Year. Notwithstanding his engineering the greatest holdup since the Great Train Robbery, it indicates to me that most of his peers dislike him. Do you agree? Do you think this inhibits his ability to improve the Lakers because most teams won't want to deal with him? What are your thoughts? Great work as always. Viva Exceptionalism. So, yeah, I think there's a connection to be made here. And look, the voting results for that award are a good indicator of that. I, unfortunately, because of the conversations I have with people around the league, am also under no assumptions that Rob is anything but not particularly popular in league circles. So I have that to work off too. And yeah, that is a thing that, part of the reason that I wanted the Lakers to bring in a general manager would be to kind of bring in somebody who has some more productive relationships with other people around the league, and hopefully, enhance those conversations a little bit compared to where they've stood recently. But the Lakers don't want to operate like that. They don't want to open up that circle. And Rob, look, love it or hate it, he is, by way of that Luka trade, earned this extension. And now it's a matter of him earning his next one based off what he does, at least at the beginning of this Luka era and at the end of this LeBron era. So, yeah, I do think you're reading the tea leaves there properly, and can basically confirm that Rob is not the most popular guy in league circles. Part of it because of him being a former agent and negotiating against some of these executives. Part of it because of how he talks to people and negotiates with people. And also part of it is that he's the head decision maker for the Lakers, and the Lakers as an organization are not very popular because they've ruined so many people's childhoods over the years. So a lot going on there, but no, I think that's a good reading of the situation. Next question here comes from Q-Breezy 12, who writes, among Duren, Lively, Gafford, Claxton, Kessler, Wendell Carter, and Miles Turner, who was the best realistic option for fit and impact? Any other names that you have in mind? So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate Duren, and I'm going to eliminate Turner. Those two guys, just no chance. Turner and his team just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I would imagine they are going to bring back much of that team almost regardless of how the rest of this postseason plays out. Jalen Duren obviously had a great run with the Pistons. They completely turned their organization around. The Lakers did have a conversation with Detroit last season about Duren, and I'm told that conversation didn't get very far. And I think it would it would not even get that far this time around if they called about him. So Duren, Turner gone. Lively, I don't see him being moved. He is perfect for Cooper Flagg and in that timeline. So I would imagine Lively is there for the foreseeable future. Gafford, I'm going to talk about here in a bit. And how I think there is a possibility there. I used the analogy of beating a buddy of yours at golf and then seeing their mood improve by way of things that are completely beyond your control later at the bars on the lowdown. I hope you guys check that out on the RSS feed. But yeah, I think Gafford is a possibility. Claxton is the guy that is more frequently linked to the Lakers in the conversations I've had to this point than any other center. Walker Kessler, Utah's kind of licking their wounds because of how far they fell in the lottery. And you know, I still think they're going to build through youth and flexibility through the draft. And unless they see this as another opportunity to acquire more opportunities to be at the top of the draft, maybe that's how that's a reason that they'll move Kessler. But the problem there is if you're moving Kessler to the Lakers, you're not going to land at the top of any draft for the foreseeable future because the Lakers now have Luka. So, and then on top of that, if you trade with the Lakers, you probably just made the draft pick that the Lakers are sending to them probably next year even worse. So that's another reason that I think Kessler is kind of complicated. Wendell Carter's a good one. I do think that the Magic are going to be looking to move bigs for shooting and creativity on the perimeter. They were a great defense this year, but their offense was utterly constipated. So I think they'll be looking for guys to kind of loosen up that offense for them. And, maybe if if they squint and see somebody like Gabe as some perimeter shooting, and an expiring contract and a draft pick and all of that stuff, maybe that's enough to at least start a conversation with them for Wendell Carter. He's a good name to look at, but I would say of those names listed there, Claxton is pretty far and away. Seems like the most likely right now. But look, it's a long off season, and a lot is going to take place between now and with the draft and free agency, and you have a lot of teams kind of reshuffling their deck. Boston, I think, their intentions for seasons to come might look very different because of the Jason Tatum news. Cleveland, I think, is going to be taking a good hard look at the way that their roster is composed now that they have had another disappointing end to their postseason. So yeah, I think that these conversations, we you always see uh, teams doing all kinds of moves to give themselves an opportunity at trading for a Giannis if he hits the market, or trading for a Kevin Durant if he hits the market. So there's a lot up in the air heading into this offseason. And I think this list of centers, while obviously a good list of centers, that list is going to change a lot over the course of the offseason. The next one here is A Gear 40 writing, "Hey Anthony, as always, appreciate all that you do." Thank you very much. I appreciate the question. As a Lakers fan, it's impossible to not compare stars against Kobe. 2010, Game 7 against the Celtics. Kobe shot horribly, kept shooting, but also did everything else to make up for the poor shooting. My question is, in a situation like that, do you believe Luka will be willing to do the same thing? P.S. I believe the trade was 100% the correct move. Just a nagging worry I have. I share that same worry to a certain extent, in that Luka's impact, and to be absolutely clear, he has incredible impact on winning, and has over the course of his career, not just in the NBA, but even when he was playing in Europe. But I would like to see him, as he matures a little bit and develops as a basketball mind. Um, because the one thing I don't question about Luka is his competitive fire. He wants to win. He desperately, desperately wants to win. Now, I think he wants to win on his terms, as we have talked about previously on the show. But at no point in my life have I ever looked at that guy and been like, "Yeah, I'm not sure he really cares all that much about winning." Like, that is the furthest thing from my mind when I think of Luka Doncic. And if that is your mentality, at some point in your life or in your career, or in their careers, players kind of look around and they say, "All right, am I doing absolutely everything I can to give my team the best chance that they can to win?" A really good example of this actually is LeBron, who uh obviously playing in Cleveland hindered him quite a bit, but he also got to Miami and looked around and realized, well, I'm playing with Dwayne Wade. Chris Bosh does play the 5, and that helps us some with spacing. Mario Chalmers isn't the best shooter either. They did bring in Mike Miller, and he really helped with some of the spacing as well. But at some point, LeBron was like, "You know what? I really got to take this shooting thing a lot more seriously." And then as you've seen over the years, he's gotten better and better and better and better and better at shooting. And as we just saw this last season with LeBron, he kind of looked around and said, "All right, Luka's going to handle the on-ball stuff. We do not have a center. I'm the only player on this team who plays with any real force consistently. All right, I'm going to have to be Draymond 2.0." And he figured out ways to do that. And I think that is something that you watched as a part of the maturation process from LeBron James over the course of his career. And there are endless examples of this. Unfortunately, there are some guys who also go backwards. I think Giannis has kind of gone backwards in this regard, where he won a championship being really active in the pick and roll and setting screens and rolling hard to the basket. And he has added to his game. Don't get me wrong, but he's added to his game, but he's also taken that off of the table. And the result is a net positive, but it shouldn't be the net positive that it should be. And you've seen Milwaukee get kind of stuck in the mud, and it'll be interesting to see um, whether that is in Milwaukee here moving forward, or that is elsewhere. If Giannis plays with a primary ball handler, if Giannis gets back to setting screens, and if he does, good Lord, good Lord, look out. But if he doesn't, then whoever acquires him, I think there's going to be a little of that. Hey, could you like get back to doing that one thing? And I think here with Luca, very much like I want to see him over the next few years, and the sooner the better, find ways to impact the game when he doesn't have the ball. That's on defense, that's in rebounding, that's on offense by being more active as a screen setter or a floor spacer if the Lakers do have another creative player as they do in LeBron and in Austin. Um, if Luka changes his approach with that stuff, I think he becomes a lot more dangerous a player, and the Lakers become a lot more dangerous a team. Until he does, that is going to be something that us as Lakers fans, having watched Kobe do exactly what the what Q is talking about, that is always going to be something that we're like, yeah, but, and I would like to remove the yeah, but. Or no, that was A Gear who wrote that one. Sorry. All right. So Bruin Writer 78 writes, why do you ignore the Lakers' success against Denver, OKC, the Clippers, and Houston since the Doncic trade? Those teams don't have enough big athletic defenders to cover LeBron, Luka, and Reeves. And against the Warriors, Austin shredded their defense. So the outcome of that series would come down to how Golden State's role players would shoot. And I don't think Green and Pajemski are going to make 10 of 14 three-pointers again. Minnesota had a doomsday defense, plus size and rebounding, plus an athletic superstar in Ant who could penetrate any defense. Without a center, the Lakers made Julius Randle look like a younger version of LeBron. The Lakers weren't a championship level squad because they only had one pitch and they faced the one batter who loved to hit fastballs. It's that simple. If the Lakers were on the OKC side of the bracket, you would be gushing over their chances to beat Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. And if the Wolves made it, we would have had the same disappointing results. No, I do think that matchups really matter here. And I do think, especially now that we're at the end of this Celtics window, um, teams are going to be a lot more imperfect moving forward. And matchups are only going to become more and more and more important over the course of forever, or at least over the course of the extent of this, the run of this CBA. That said, a lot of the issues that Minnesota presented to the Lakers, it's not like over the course of the postseason they go away. And yeah, the Lakers had success against Denver, OKC, and the Clippers and Houston. But I think over the course of that series, like the Lakers were able to have that success against those teams in one. And the OKC example here is a little complicated, obviously, because we saw them play that team 2 times in a row. But when you play Denver 1 time in a row, there is no wear down factor over multiple games that size can have on you. Look at this series between Golden State and the Timberwolves right now. Obviously, the giant caveat is that Golden State is playing without Steph Curry and their offense has completely fallen off of a cliff. But look at those guys who are currently playing. I have never thought, when I thought about the Golden State Warriors as a team that would ever lose kind of the will to live. But watch that team. They're getting bludgeoned repeatedly with a mallet. And over the course of these, individual games, and then especially over the course of the series, that winds up hurting. And the thing that I would like for the Lakers to take really seriously is the impact of prolonged physicality and the impact that that has on teams. And I think when we just look hyper closely at their success in one game sample sizes against some of these teams that are bigger and longer and faster, we ignore the success that the 2019-2020 team had by being bigger, longer, and faster. That's not to say that you ignore skill altogether. Not saying that at all. But I do think the Lakers have gone completely out of whack when it comes to the balance of skill type players and physical tool type players It's way too much in the favor of these skill type players, and there aren't nearly enough just dogs on this team, and that's what the Lakers need to get back to. And I think that Minnesota series, while it was a terrible matchup, in the way that I'm approaching the kind of what comes out of that series, I consider that kind of a blessing that the Lakers faced that matchup when they did and were kind of notified and put on blast. Okay, yeah, we do have to get bigger. We do have to get more athletic and stronger, and those physical tools need to be brought back into the fold to a much greater extent than they are right now. All right, I'm going to take a quick break from the mailbag and dive into a couple thoughts that I've had about the lottery. One, to all of the people who are just sitting there on their high horse, who are saying, no, no, no way. No way the lottery could possibly be rigged. And anybody who was even hinting at that, you're the reason that you have election deniers. And it's like, come on, guys. It's not that serious. Like, it really isn't. It's a sport. It's an entertainment industry. The NBA is. Shit, what we do is an entertainment industry. We're allowed to tell jokes from time to time. We're allowed to dive into bits from time to time to entertain our audiences. But as it pertains to this like lottery rigging thing and the people who are just so ardently calling anybody who casts any aspersions whatsoever about the lottery, the way that they're reacting to all of this and the number of shows that are like, is this rigged? Is it actually rigged? I think the number, like the ratio of people who are actually claiming that this thing is legitimately rigged. And I had a good time yesterday with Harrison laughing about the possibility that it is rigged. I don't actually truly believe that it is rigged. It's a fun thing to laugh about though. And the number of people who like are defending the legitimacy of the NBA's lottery far outnumber the people who are legitimately claiming on actual platforms that the thing is rigged. So calm down. Secondly, what I will say about the lottery is that I think it needs to be greatly simplified. You need to flatten out the odds completely, and I'll have some thoughts on flattened odds because I've seen a lot of people whining about the flattened odds today. But I think they need to flatten those odds completely and use that machine that they used to do the lottery now. Put that in the middle of the dais, or on stage there on ESPN. Put 14 ping pong balls in that lottery. Or I saw people saying expand it to include all the teams that don't make the conference finals. I'd be fine with that. That'd be kind of fun. That way you don't decentivize people making the playoffs. Bring so if you have 4 teams that make the conference finals, put 26 ping pong balls, all clearly labeled with teams logos and team colors and stuff like that. No city edition ping pong balls. And just go in reverse order. The ball that we see come out 26th, you get the number 26 pick or 25th pick or whatever it is. The ball that we see come out 12th, you get the ball that you see come out first, you get the lowest pick before you get to the conference finalists. The ball that you see come out last, that team gets the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft. And from there, obviously you have some teams that might have multiple ping pong balls in there because of their acquisitions and their draft pick management. Maybe this would probably make first round picks a hell of a lot more expensive. Um, but and I think if you do this, you should probably introduce a third round to the NBA draft, so that you could still maintain a healthy trade market. But I think you should just flatten it out, make it a TV event, and everybody can react live having watched it. But all of this secrecy, and there's a video that they sent out of the lottery while it was being run. It's a super boring video, and I can see why they don't make that a TV event by itself. But I just think it's too complicated and it's too secretive. And I saw people. There was like a guy on Twitter who was saying, "Well, if you're claiming that the lottery is rigged, like this is the other part of it. The cases that people were making for this thing not being rigged were pretty poor. Like I saw Rachel Nichols saying that, the fact that the Dallas Mavericks won the lottery with a 1.8% chance at winning the lottery, and how there were people with with even lesser odds than that who win the actual lottery. The difference there, Rachel, is that there are so many people who also have the same odds without buying multiple lottery tickets, who like there's nobody who goes out and gives themselves a 36% chance of winning the lottery, in your kind of defense of the lottery, your hypothetical defense of the lottery. There's somebody saying, well, you're accusing Ernst and Young, the company that actually runs this lottery, of fraud. They literally paid $100 million to the SEC for the fraud that they actually committed. So they're capable of it. Like if you're gonna sit here and breathlessly tell me that like I'm an idiot for wondering how the NBA's lottery seems to produce the best case scenarios for storylines heading into the upcoming season, um and wondering if that could possibly, if the league could be placing a finger on the scales there. If you're going to call me an idiot over it, you better have a better defense than Ernst and Young will never commit fraud. Like get out of here with that. But anyway, that's how I would that's how I would kind of fix the system, and present it a lot better, so that if people are watching it live, and there's still ways to rig the ping pong thing there. You could weight balls and all that stuff, I guess, if you want. But if in this case it's actual transparency, you can actually see the thing take place. It would be you can still do your weird bad podcast ESPN if you want to do that between the picks of the ping pong balls, and you can still throw the commercial break whenever you want to, in between the every fifth pick or something like that. And it would be a thing. Remember, if you did this right after the conference finalists were finalized, and you put that as a televised event, you would have fans of every single team that has a pick in the upcoming draft checking that out. I think I just fixed it all. You're all welcome. My second thought on the lottery, really quickly, and then I'll dive back into your guys' comments. My second thought on the lottery is, I saw a lot of people saying how the flattened odds are not working because all it's leading to is better teams winning the lottery. And it's like, do you hear yourself speak? Like, do you hear yourself talk? Man, these lottery odds, they're too flat, and they're decentivizing tanking. Oh, ah, I get it. What are you doing? Of course it's decentivizing tanking. The NBA wants to do away with tanking. So those teams that like make their fans watch a lesser product, and then you don't get a good draft pick on the other end of it, don't be angry at the new system. Be angry at your dumbass team for making you sit through that awful season for flattened odds. Like, find another way to make my team better. Actually compete. Pay the luxury tax. Like, and that's the other thing. Is like, well, you're having all of these teams. There are some of these teams that are sitting at the bottom of the lottery forever, and they're just always stuck there. You know why they're stuck there? Their owners suck. It's not because of flattened odds. It's because your owners aren't paying for the developmental team that needs to actually, or a better scouting team that finds talent anywhere in the draft. And then the developmental team that develops those players wherever you get them in the draft, or the capologists or the scouts or all these things. The reason that the Lakers aren't stuck at the bottom of the lottery is because of their own inherent advantages. And I'd be a moron to not acknowledge those. But on top of it, they have a pretty damn good scouting department. Look at these playoffs and the number of players that the Lakers scouted and eventually drafted, and the impact that they're having on their respective teams now. You don't see too many former Hornets out there. So like if you really want to complain about this rigged system and how it's not fair to these owners who are just racking in profits and watching their asset gain value hand over fist over the years. Meanwhile, they aren't investing into the team to the extent that they should be. That's not a lottery rigging problem. That's an ownership problem. That's a billionaire problem. Fix your billionaire. Apply some more pressure to your billionaire. All right. Let's go ahead and dive on in to the where is it? There's my account. All right, here we go. So the first question I am seeing here from at JD06 Men's, great show at Anthony Irwin LA. Thank you. Let's say Milwaukee trades Giannis, probably means they're rebuilding. What players on their roster could you see the Lakers obtaining, and then what cost? Maybe a Bobby Portis on the cheap. Well, if you're going to be rebuilding, I don't think too many guys are going to be super duper cheap. I guess it could potentially be a fire sale. We're having a fire stale. But anyway, so guys on their roster who the Lakers could use. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. I did warn you guys coming into the season that losing Taurean Prince would kind of sort of hurt a little bit. He plays a position of need, being a maybe lighter footed 2/3 rather than the heavier footed 3/4s that the Lakers have a ton of. That's part of the reason I'm not all that interested in Bobby Portis. Unless the Lakers move like Rui, I'm not all that interested in Bobby Portis. But yeah, as far as like other guys on their team, like Kuz was abysmal when he got there. Brook Lopez might be interesting as a backup option if the Lakers have a vertical threat, and then Brook Lopez comes in and spaces the floor for some other lineups. I think that might be an interesting look, though he's pretty slow and washed at this point. Outside of that, that was I'm really kind of curious what Milwaukee does, whether they keep Giannis or not. And part of the reason that I'm really kind of curious about it is because I just don't love too many guys on their roster. Like Connaughton looks pretty stiff and pretty washed at this point too. Yeah, I guess Gary Trent Jr., though he's a free agent, so maybe you could, see if he's taking another veteran minimum contract this year. Outside of that, they're just that roster's kind of ugly, and that's part of the reason why they're out in the first round. Let's see. At Kobe3 writes, "Yo, Anthony, since Utah's tanking efforts for Cooper Flagg fell flat, email Jeannie and Rob and tell them to re-engage with Trader Dan to get Kessler to the Lakers." Yeah, as I've said, the Kessler thing is just really complicated. It's really kind of muddy, and I just don't. They're building through youth. He's a good young center. He's popular in Utah for reasons. And any trade that Utah makes with the Lakers is going to make their own asset worse. So the Lakers would have to improve their offer to reflect that value loss potentially. So maybe the Lakers, throw an additional pick or remove all protection from their pick whatsoever. But even if you remove the protection from that pick and it just now becomes Utah's asset, if you do that, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. Thank you for promising that you're not going to be a top 4 or a bottom 4 team next season. Now you do have flattened lottery odds, and whatever pick that the Lakers, like if the Lakers have a mediocre season and we see them jump up the boards and that pick goes to Utah, maybe it becomes more valuable, and Utah adding more draft slots by which that pick can be improved. Okay, like there's some value there, but it's just the Kessler thing is really tricky, and I think the Lakers would have to probably overpay by our standards to try to get him. So yeah, I just don't, as things stand right now, I just don't really see the Kessler thing happening. Let's dive into the live comments. And I did see, yep, we do have a super comment. So again, sorry for Jason Tatum. All right. David Furman writes, what realistic trade targets for AR? Who can we get? So there's a couple complicating factors if you're trading at Austin Reeves. One, first and foremost, the Lakers love the kid. So if they trade him, it's for a recent all-star or somebody who is about to become an all-star or a current all-star. The problem with that, though, is all-stars tend to be expensive. And if you're trading Austin for an all-star, you are now including salary ballast that now has to sit on their books. So I tend to think that, like, I don't really want to get into specific names because I just don't think we know enough about the market. But the kind of trade that you're looking at here, if you're trading Austin Reeves, is like an Austin who makes 12-ish million bucks a year, and then Kleba or Gabe or Gabe. Oh, or I need to get to my TV. You have additional ballast there, but you're also probably going to have to send over an asset like a second rounder or something like that, or a pick swap for taking those expiring contracts, because you're trading Austin probably for a slightly better player, or an A player who is as good as Austin, but fits better with the Lakers. But that's still going to be a guy that organization likes probably, and you're sending them money that they're either going to have to try to find a place for so that it doesn't sit on their books. So maybe you trade the salary into somebody else's cap space potentially, so that money doesn't sit on that team's books. But even then, you now have to send an asset to whatever team that you're trading those expirings into cap space for. You need to send them something for housing your money, for laundering your money. So yeah, I think it's a tricky look here. And I think at some point I'll probably write something for Clutch Points that allows me to just completely outline everything that goes into trading Austin Reeves and the kinds of players who I think the Lakers should be targeting there. But trading Austin is a complicated one, and first and foremost, it's especially complicated because of how much the Lakers love having Austin, the player and the dude. So if they do trade him, it'll be for a significant step in the direction of winning a championship asaptually. All right, let's answer a couple more of these. At Lakers Gang writing, thoughts on if the Lakers would consider Luke Cornet as a cheaper option at center this summer. 7'2", great finish at the rim, underrated defense. Yeah, I could see that. I thought about Cornet a little bit, especially, with Boston. They're probably going to be in draft asset acquisition mode, because they, like, I would imagine, like Harrison talked about it yesterday. Jaylen Brown will probably be on the trade block this summer, and you'll see a bit of a reset for Boston in this 1 year while they don't have Jason Tatum. Drew Holiday will probably be available. Kristaps Porzingis will probably be available. And then, maybe if they think Cornet could be a larger part of their rotation moving forward, then maybe that'll be a negotiation tactic that Utah uses on the Lakers there. But I would be, there are players out there who I would be more disappointed by than if the Lakers went out and got Luke Cornet. Um, I I've actually been pretty impressed by him in the postseason, like how physical he is too. So, yeah, that'd be a guy who I would say keep your eye on this upcoming summer. As I was talking about those guys there, Drew Holiday, he's a little stiff, little long in the tooth, but I wonder what kind of a package the Lakers would have to put together for Drew Holiday. That could be interesting. Um, we'll come back to that one. Let's go into some of your live comments here. Cheesecake Skeleton seems like an oxymoron. Hey, Anthony, do you think the Lakers will buy second round picks in the draft? We bought Max Christie with the 34th pick a few years ago. Um, yeah, I was bummed that they didn't do it last year. Part of the reason that they didn't, I'm told, is that teams are holding on to those second round draft picks a lot tighter than they did a few years back when the Lakers were able to do that for Max Christie. So I think the Lakers are going to try to do it again. I would be pretty disappointed if they didn't. And, in my conversations, I'm told that that'll be one of the things that they will make some calls about and see if they're able to do that. And then if they do that, and if they do it early enough and quickly enough, you could potentially combine that and the 55th pick that the Lakers have and some expiring salaries, and you can now turn that into more of a win now player. Whereas if you buy a draft pick and you draft somebody at 34 or something like that, you're now looking at a player who is probably a year or so away from being a year or so away. Even in the case of Max Christie, right? He eventually became the player that we thought he was going to be, but it took a little while to get there. And I don't think the Lakers have that little while to wait. I think as we're finding out with Cleveland and with Boston and go on down the line, these windows are a lot shorter. So I think the Lakers need to strike while they can here, and while they have LeBron, while they have Luka, or they need to keep their powder dry and try to position themselves for the 1A to Luka after LeBron is gone. So, but yeah, to answer the question, absolutely. I I won't go so far as to say I think that the Lakers will buy a second rounder because somebody has to be selling it, but I do think that the Lakers will try. They did last year. They just didn't find a seller. Um Desmond Smith, what are your thoughts on trading Austin Reeves for Kessler? I understand AR is a better player, but what's the value of Kessler's contract and cheaper potential extension? Also, he's only 23. That's an interesting one. In that case, Utah sends an additional draft pick alongside Kessler. I could squint and see a potential trade there. I would want, like, if the Lakers did that, I would want a first with Kessler, an unprotected first with Kessler, so that the Lakers could then have another draft asset with other expiring salaries to improve the perimeter athleticism and replace Austin's perimeter production. But I like where your head's at there, Desmond. I think there's a possibility there, and um, again, Austin would be popular in Utah, for reasons. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not saying do it for Dark Galaxy. AR for Kessler straight up makes the Lakers worse. Yeah, I know it wouldn't be straight up. I would want more stuff. Mark Hoosie, rumor is D'Lo isn't the most beloved player in the locker room. LeBron and he weren't Xmas gift buddies. That won't last long in LA. Uh, you're right. D'Lo didn't last long in in LA. Uh, all right, I'm gonna get up out of here and watch Andor, and then I will pop back on here after the conclusion of this Denver OKC game, which is a good one, to talk about it on the lowdown tonight. So look for that in your guys' RSS feeds tomorrow. Great questions, great show here today. Thank you everybody for popping on. Did I talk about Gafford? I didn't talk about Gafford. All right, that is not going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge. So I gave the analogy last night about Gafford, and the buddy you beat at the golf course getting in a better mood because they got the number from a girl at the bar. So that's on the RSS feed. You can find that there. But the Gafford thing, so they're basically going to have to make a choice between PJ Washington, who plays the exact same position as Cooper Flagg, or Daniel Gafford, who is looking to be paid soon as well. I would think because Washington is a better player that they would lean towards trading Gafford, in which case that obviously helps the Lakers. But if they trade Gafford and then Lively gets hurt potentially, now AD is back to playing center full time. So that makes things a little complicated there too. So it just kind of depends, and it'll be one of those things that we have to pay really close attention to. The rumor cycle coming out of Dallas. There are already whispers about Gafford's future in Dallas because of the extent to which he is looking to get paid and the role that he wants to play to prove that he is worth that amount of money. So I don't think Gafford will be in Dallas again next year. And then it's just a matter of, can the Lakers get their numbers unblocked from Dallas, and can they pick up that conversation and have a productive one with Dallas now that their ownership is in a better mood, and their fan base is in a better mood as well. I do think though that Claxton is a lot more likely, and he's more expensive. He's already being paid like the starting center, but I think he's a lot more likely. And maybe you can get Day'Ron Sharpe out of Brooklyn too, depending on the assets that you send to Brooklyn. And then because I think the Lakers are going to have to acquire multiple centers this summer to match up with some of these bigger, bulkier center groups that these other teams have. And if you're able to go out and get, Claxton and Day'Ron, and now you have like your bruiser and Day'Ron and your slasher dunker in Claxton, then maybe that's a path that they go down. But I do think that the Gafford situation is something that we'll be coming back to quite a bit over the course of the rest of the season, and then obviously into the offseason. All right, now I will say that will do it for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Thank you everybody for popping in, and thank you everybody for the questions. Let me just make sure that we don't have cool. Thank you again though for those questions and the iTunes reviews. That was great to have a nice, healthy iTunes mailbag today. That was really nice to see. Keep that coming. That really helps the show. And yeah, until tomorrow or the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. We'll talk to you tomorrow.